You're listening to I Love This TV Show, The Golden Girls.
Hi, and welcome to the I Love This TV Show podcast. I'm your host, Noelle from pastasworld.com. Each season of this podcast will contain a TV show in full. This means the length of the season depends on the length of the TV show. The first season is, of course, The Golden Girls. The Golden Girls, Season 2, Episode 5. Isn't it romantic? Sophia comes rushing in the door. She puts a VHS tape in the VCR and opens up some popcorn. Dorothy comes in and asks what she's watching. Sophia tells her it's a movie. Dorothy is shocked when she realizes what it is. Dorothy, what are they doing? Sophia, you know what they're doing. We had that talk when you were 12. Dorothy, Ma, I can't believe this. You rented a dirty movie. Dorothy grabs the remote but manages to fast forward. Blanche and Rose come home. They recognize what's going on. Rose comments it reminds her of a rabbit farm. Dorothy is upset. Rose asks Dorothy when her friend Jeanne is coming. Rose talks about how hard it was after Charlie died. Dorothy's friend Jeanne was with Pat for 8 years. Rose decides to make ice cream clown sundaes. Dorothy tells Sophia she's worried they won't all get along. Sophia asks if it's because Jeanne's a lesbian. Sophia tells her she's known since college. Dorothy wonders if she should tell the girls. Sophia, Jeanne is a nice person. She happens to like girls instead of guys. Some people like cats instead of dogs. Frankly, I'd rather live with a lesbian than a cat. The doorbell rings and it's Jeanne. Dorothy tries to ask her if she wants the girls to know or not. She wants it to be Jeanne's decision. She tells her she's fine with her telling them. Rose comes out with the sundaes, and Jeanne decides otherwise. Blanche comes in and introduces herself and talks about several subjects, including men. Blanche, oh, I'm sorry. Was that insensitive of me? Maybe you're not ready for men yet? Sophia, you don't know the half of it. Jeanne is going to stay in Sophia's room, and Sophia will stay with Dorothy. She makes a good joke about it. Sophia, no problem. I just have to remember when I get up to go to the bathroom, it's down the hall to the left and not my right. Last time we had a guest, I killed 2 potted palms. The next day, everyone is having breakfast. Blanche tries to get Jeanne to go out with a guy. Jeanne mentions growing up on a dairy farm. Rose gets excited. They start discussing milking machines. Dorothy and Blanche make a run for it. Rose invites Jeanne to a movie. Later that day, Blanche tells Dorothy that rain reminds her of her first kiss. It was in the shower. Blanche comments about how well Rose and Jeanne have hit it off. Dorothy then changes the subject. Blanche. Dorothy, I don't want you to take this the wrong way, but there's something about Jeanne that bothers me. Dorothy. Bothers you? Blanche. Every time I suggest she go out on a date, you two change the subject. Dorothy. Oh, come on, Blanche, that's ridiculous. Oh, look, I think the rain is beginning to let up. Blanche. I may be a lot of things, but naive is not one of them. Face it. Your friend Jeanne is seeing a married man. Dorothy responds sarcastically. Rose comes back in with Jeanne, but Rose is crying. They saw a love story and terms of endearment. It was the Crimea River matinee. Jeanne asks Blanche if she can speak to Dorothy privately. Jeanne tells Dorothy that she's going to leave early. She has fallen in love with Rose. That night, Dorothy is having trouble sleeping. Sophia gets annoyed. Dorothy apologizes. Then she pops back up to talk to her mother. She asks her a question. Dorothy, I just wanted to ask you a question. Sophia, what? Dorothy, how would you react if you were told one of your kids was gay? Sophia, your brother Phil is gay? I knew it. When he was a kid, we couldn't keep him away from those gladiator movies. Dorothy, Ma, Phil is not gay. Sophia, you mean you're gay? What, your friend Jeanne is having some sort of membership drive? Dorothy, I know you don't give many dates, but stick with what you know. At your age, it's very hard to break into something new. Dorothy tells her she is not gay, but wanted to know how she'd react. Sophia, I'll tell you the truth, Dorothy. If one of my kids was gay, I wouldn't love him one bit less. I would wish him all the happiness in the world. Dorothy is overcome with emotion. She tells Sophia she's the greatest mother in the world. Before Sophia goes back to sleep, Dorothy tells her one more thing. Dorothy, Jeanne thinks she's in love with Rose. Sophia starts to laugh, and Dorothy gets mad. But Sophia insists that Jeanne, in love with little Miss Muffet, is funny. The two then both laugh. Blanche comes in to find out what's going on. Blanche, I heard you two laughing. What's so funny? Sophia, for starters, Jeanne is a lesbian. Blanche, what's funny about that? Sophia, you aren't surprised? Blanche, of course not. I mean, I've never known any personally, but isn't Danny Thomas one? Blanche clearly misunderstands, so Dorothy sets the record straight. Blanche then says that classic line, but a man has so much more to offer. Dorothy then tells a story about an elementary school election. Blanche goes on to say that whatever makes Jeanne happy is fine with her. She goes to the door to leave, but Sophia stops her. She tells her Jeanne thinks she's in love with Rose. Blanche. Rose? Jeanne has the hots for Rose? I don't believe it. I do not believe it. Dorothy, I was pretty surprised myself. Blanche. I'll bet. To think Jeanne would prefer Rose over me. That's ridiculous. Blanche is livid with anger and jealousy that Jeanne prefers Rose to her. It's another night, and Sophia has a cold. Dorothy says she got what she deserved for running around in the rain to get a dirty movie. Dorothy changes accommodations, and Jeanne will be staying with her now. Blanche then heads off to bed, but discusses her beauty routine as she exits. Blanche, I think I'll retire too. This is the night I do my facial packs and compresses. Takes me an hour, but that's why my face is as smooth as a baby's bottom. Dorothy, that must explain the urge I sometimes have to diaper your head. Rose and Jeanne stay up and continue to play cards. They start talking about slumber parties. Jeanne states that at her first slumber party, they all got sent home for fighting over who had the cutest prom date. Rose says she never got to go to the prom and tells the whole long story. Jeanne finds her story funny, though. Later, Rose talks about how hard it was to sleep after Charlie died. She looks at her watch and realizes it's 2 a.m. So Jeanne heads off to Dorothy's room, but Rose stops her. Rose doesn't want her to wake Dorothy so late, so she invites her to bunk with her. Rose is now in bed. Jeanne comes out of the bathroom and whispers to Rose, asking her if she is awake. Jeanne tells Rose she likes her very much. She starts to tell her she loves her, but changes it to, I'm quite fond of you. At this, Rose is wide awake, but fakes snoring. Jeanne takes a blanket off the bed and sleeps on the couch in Rose's room. The next morning, Dorothy asks Blanche if she saw Jeanne. Dorothy then asks Sophia when she enters. She doesn't know where Jeanne is either. They realize she must have stayed in Rose's room, and they all start to freak out. But Rose comes in and tells Dorothy something terrible happened, which pretty much goes with their fears. She asks for a private word with Dorothy. Rose tries to tell her what happened, and Dorothy confirms that yes, Jeanne is gay. Rose is upset that Dorothy told everyone but her. Rose, you told everybody but me? Dorothy, honey, I didn't even know if you'd know what a lesbian was. Rose, I could have looked it up. Dorothy, oh honey, I'm sorry. I thought I was doing the right thing. I guess I underestimated you. Rose then goes on to tell Dorothy that she thinks Jeanne is in love with her. Dorothy confirms that she is not wrong about this. Jeanne comes into the kitchen and tells Dorothy she's going to leave. Rose asks to speak privately with Jeanne. Jeanne tells Rose she should never have said anything. She tells her how alone she's felt since Pat died. Rose tells her she doesn't understand these kind of feelings, but if she did, she thinks she'd be flattered and proud. She also tells her she doesn't have to leave because of it. They hug. Sophia comes in. She was listening at the door. She was too short to listen outside the window like Dorothy and Blanche did. I'll be right back after a short break. Favorite quotes. Dorothy. Ma, I can't believe this. You rented a dirty movie. Rose. What are they doing? Blanche. I know what they are doing, but I've never seen anyone do it at that speed. Sophia. Dorothy, I know you don't get many dates, but stick with what you know. Sophia. If one of my kids was gay, I wouldn't love him one bit less. I'd wish him all the happiness in the world. Dorothy. It's because you're the greatest mother in the world, and I love you. Sophia. You idiot! If someone told you to jump off a bridge, would you? This episode has lots to discuss. This is a really good episode. Rose actually really does wind up being the hero of this episode, as far as I'm concerned. I mean, each person responds in their own way to the main thing that is going on. Because most of the time there's like a B story, but in this case, they pretty much kept it all to an A story. And I really like that they put that, that Jeanne and her sexuality as a lesbian is what's been put at the forefront. So let's see. Sophia knew since she was in college, but she doesn't elaborate on how she knew. It would have been interesting if she had actually given some information on her thought process and how she deduced that. Blanche, oh my gosh, Blanche just cracks me up. Her obsession with men really comes to the forefront in this episode, too. Because she's constantly trying to set her up on a date. I don't know if she planned on taking her to the Hacienda Hut to get a date, but I'm pretty sure there's better places around the Golden Girls zone to get a date. Thinking that, oh my gosh, yeah, in the room, that conversation, that's just so hilarious. No matter how many times I watch that, it still cracks me up. Isn't Danny Thomas one? And Dorothy has to be like, no, not Lebanese, lesbian. And yeah, it takes her a minute, but the fact that she goes and instead of like, oh, okay, whatever, or oh, well, blah, blah, she's fine actually and she's totally fine with it all until she finds out that Jean's got the hots for Rose, as she puts it, because she just gets super jealous that Jeanne likes Rose better. Also demonstrating, Blanche's ego. She always has to be the center of attention, and when she's not, she's just not happy. And then the conversation that Dorothy had with Sophia, I think that was definitely the middle of the night prior to, Blanche coming in, asking her those questions and her thoughts and that kind of thing. That's always pretty nice, the things that Sophia said, because not every parent would be that accepting of their child, even today in, 2020. Sad but true. But it is a good episode. The Golden Girls were very much ahead of their time. And then Rose's reaction, oh my goodness, Rose's eyes getting all big, and then the fake loud snoring. And the next morning, going into the kitchen and what she says to Dorothy, and the three of them, their worst fears all come true. And then Jean feeling bad and deciding she's going to leave, but Rose really stepping up and demonstrating that no, you do not have to leave. She handled it in a really, really nice way. I don't think that Blanche would have handled it in the same way if she was the actual person that Jean wound up liking. I think it would have been, how much more harsh reception. And because she can be kind of, oh, what's the right word? Short, maybe, might work. With her southern ways, as she calls it. She does sometimes respond in a quite interesting manner, and it kind of, she does get in a lot of fights with people. She's hot-tempered. So she could have gone in the wrong direction if it was her. The jealousy reaction that we saw, that definitely demonstrates, a couple aspects of Blanche's personality. So it probably wouldn't have gone quite as well. She would not have handled it in the way that Rose did. That's definitely for sure. Because, Rose is always kind. She's always sweet. I know people call her a simpleton and things of that nature, and they hate her saying whole love stories. But, that's just part of who Rose is. She's kind-hearted. And she always shows that through. Even in her stories, it shows that she's kind-hearted. Especially the one about like all the disabled animals on the farm. I'm pretty sure those were all Rose's responsibility. But overall, a very good episode, very ahead of its time, very progressive for the time when this did air back in the late 80s when a lot of this subject matter was still, quite sadly, very taboo. Nowadays, thankfully, it is not. Thanks for tuning in to the I Love This TV Show podcast. If you would like to make a donation in support of this podcast, you can through Cash App to Pasta26MC. That's pasta like the food, the number 2, the number 6, M as in monkey, C as in cat. If you would like to sponsor this podcast or advertise on it, please send an email to podcast@pastasworld.com. As always, you can go to pastasworld.com for more information.
It's been great reliving this episode with you. Please check out the podcast website, anchor.fm/I Love This TV Show, no spaces. You'll be able to see the show notes and also support this podcast. To check out everything I'm up to and nerding about, head over to pastasworld.com. You'll also find additional content there. Thanks for listening and stay golden.